Welcome back to Books with Beck. I'm Beck. Let's talk books. If you have ever met me, you probably know that I have a weird hatred for Keira Knightley. I was obsessed with Wizards of Waverly Place as a kid, and that Funky Junky Hat song really stuck with me. I do not like her. I just think that this is all fake. I don't understand why she does it. It just makes me mad. But as a reader, I feel that Pride and Prejudice is sort of a rite of passage. So this week I am reading Pride and Prejudice for the very first time, and I am going to watch the movie. So I'm going to have to deal with Keira Knightley for 2.5 hours. There are so many of my friends that say that it is their favorite movie of all time and that they love her. So I know that I'm outlandish for this. It's completely unreasonable. I don't know why I just hate her so much. However, I'm going to give it my best shot because I really want to get back to reading some of the classics that I just never read. Like I read Little Women in grade school and grade school actually. And of course I wasn't able to understand all of the themes in it. And so I want to go back and read it. I've never read Pride and Prejudice. Like there's so many books that I haven't read that I'm like, okay, it's time. I am taking my actual copy of Pride and Prejudice out with me today. My husband's aunt got me this for Christmas last year, and it is just the most stunning copy. Has these great sprayed edges, and this inner lining is so pretty. So I don't know why I've waited so long. It just kind of has made me nervous to get started on it. I did try to listen to the audiobook in the car this week, and it's not going to work. It's not going to work. The narrator has a British accent, which is actually quite beautiful. It feels like it's, who was I saying it felt like? Oh, yeah, the narrator feels like Julie Andrews, and so it's very comforting. However, with so many characters in the story and the British accent, I felt like I was getting confused, and I really don't want to miss anything in this story. So I probably will listen to it as I read, just so I can have Julie Andrews' voice in my head. It's not really her, but it sounds like her. However, I'm kind of nervous about taking this out, so I'm going to be very, very careful with it, and hopefully we can get to that 25% mark today. Check-in. I'm at the 30% mark in Pride and Prejudice, and so far I feel like an idiot. It is written in a more old-fashioned language, obviously, from it being an older book. I genuinely am having to go back and check things and reread sections to make sure that I fully understand what is going on in the scene. So it is taking me a little while to read the book. I'm not going to say I'm not enjoying it, but it is kind of boring right now. So I'm hoping that changes, and if that's controversial, then, so sorry about that. But right now I hate Mr. Darcy, and I know that that's going to change. So I'm hoping this is like many other classic literatures where the beginning half is a little bit slower, and then that last half is where you get a lot of that building and that character development. So fingers crossed for that, because right now Mr. Darcy, not a fan. So somewhere he's got to hook me, but it hasn't happened yet. Like I said, I'm at that 30% mark, so my hope today is to get much farther along in the book, because I do still need to watch the movie and I'm getting behind. So I'm on crunch time now. I am reading. I will do my nail check. I got new nails. So I was going for a fall kind of garden vibe. She did an amazing job as usual. Oh, can never focus. There we go. So pretty.
You'd say, what's the update? It's still happening. I keep being told that there's going to be a season 3. No, I'm not being told that. All right, let's do it.
Currently, I am at like the 45% mark, and Lady Catherine should not be one of my favorite characters, but I think she is. She reminds me of Aunt Adeline from Nanny McPhee, and so that's who I'm picturing, and it is quite amusing for me. However, I still have a long ways to go, and I'm tired. So we're going to see what we can get done. Do you have anything to say? She's a woman of few words. It did get better. In fact, I was at the 30% mark and I just was like, okay, you just got to keep going. You just got to keep going. And I got to that 50% mark. Let me tell you, that 50% mark, that's where it got good, because that is where we got Mr. Darcy's letter. And if you have read Pride and Prejudice, or if you've watched Pride and Prejudice, you probably know about Mr. Darcy's letter. I did not know, obviously, going into this blind. So I was extremely happy to see that he was begging and pining and groveling and crawling on his knees and begging for forgiveness. And I think that's wonderful. I think that's exactly what he deserved. And I think that's what most men deserve. So I loved it. I love that he was pining after the woman that he wanted. And what I enjoy about his pining was that he was not just, trying to appeal to her emotions and trying to compliment her and blah, blah, blah. No, she expressed complaints and he directly addressed those complaints. He expressed the situation. He expressed his thinking. He talked to her like she is an intellectual, because she is. And I really enjoyed that. So that definitely made my reading experience much better. With that being said, is Pride and Prejudice going to suddenly become one of my favorite books of all time? I do not think so. And that may be a controversial opinion, and what I'm about to say is probably stupid, but I don't know how else to say it. I teach reading to kids. And so therefore, reading is my job and reading is my hobby. So whenever I'm reading something, if it starts to feel like work, it becomes work in my mind. And then if I'm reading something for enjoyment, that is fun and that is my hobby. That's not to say I can't read classic literature and appreciate it and enjoy it. I can. However, I think that it's more likely for me to enjoy it if I read it in the summer. So I chose to read it right now in a busy time of the school year, and I definitely felt like it was like extra work for me, which makes me sad. I probably will reread this book in the future. However, it was still very beautifully written and I can appreciate it. And that's the thing, is that whenever I read classic literature, I really do try to sit down and evaluate things and to critically think about things so that I can truly understand everything that the author was putting into it. I only have 20 minutes left. I have like 20 minutes left of this book. And so far, they're still not together. And everyone is starting to learn that there is some chemistry between them. So I know that that big final scene is coming. I know it is. So I think I'm going to film the last 20 minutes of me reading the book and see if I get any strong reactions or anything like that. I may not. However, with how strongly people feel about Pride and Prejudice, I feel like the ending scene has to be good. I feel like this has to have been building up to something amazing. So I'm going to go ahead and read through the last 20 minutes, and that way afterwards I can give you a full review and then we can watch the movie. I just finished and I think I'm going to rate Pride and Prejudice 4 stars. Personally, I do feel like I need to reread it. I think this is one of those books where you can appreciate new things every time you read it. If I'm being honest with you, it's closer to 3.5 for me. There were parts of the story where I was not interested and I was not captivated. And I think a lot of that was the fact that I put myself on a timeline and all of that. However, this is art. This is genuinely art. The words that are put within the story and the expression that he shows through his language is stunning. There are some quotes in here that, reading them a second time, I suddenly feel something different, and I genuinely can appreciate and recognize why this book has stayed relevant for so very long. I loved it, and even though I'm not rating it 5 stars, and maybe that's terrible of me, but I'm still very glad that I read it. I do have some critiques and things like that, but also I think that that's just with time and preference. For me personally, I do not love when a ending wraps up every single character storyline in a perfect little bow. And that's pretty common for more traditional writings. It's just not my preference. And who am I to tell Jane Austen that she's wrong? So what does my opinion matter? I definitely do want to read this again in the future. And I think that this wouldn't be one of those books that I'd want to share with my daughter in the future. So if you have not read Pride and Prejudice, I definitely think you should, especially if you consider yourself a romance person. This is one of the foundational romance books. Reading this after reading so many of today's popular romances, I can see where so many authors have gained inspiration and just a love for romance by reading this book. I'm very glad that we had the opportunity to read something, you know, that could have been lost over time. So very beautiful. Like I said, 4 stars. Now that I am done reading, I get to watch the movie, which I am so excited about. So there are so many book to movie adaptations in the world, and this is considered to be one of the more popular book to movie adaptations out there. And the cast is so talented, except for Keira Knightley. And it is just one of those movies that have taken over pop culture in so many ways. So I'm excited to watch it. I don't like Keira Knightley, but I'm not going to let that ruin the movie for me. And maybe this will turn over a new leaf for her. Probably not. But I'm going to give it a very good chance. There are some things that I am like actively seeking out in the movie. I want the letter scene and I do not want it cut. There is 8 pages of letter in this book and I want that much letter in the movie. I really don't want that to be cut short just because that was like the big turning point in the book for me. Maybe that's not the same case for the rest of the fan base, but I do want that letter scene. I obviously want the garden, like the walking scene with the proposal, the first and the second. I just really want the language to be present. I want that poetic language that he uses when he speaks about her. I want that present. So there are some other things that could definitely be cut, I think, and overall I'm sure they had to because it's a very long book, but there are some things that are needed in there, and if they're not in there I'll be quite upset. I'm going to wait for my husband to get home because he has seen it before, so if any of those reaction points are, you know, coming, he'll be able to video and capture that for you guys. So fingers crossed that the letter scene is all that I'm hoping it to be, because that's honestly where most of my stakes are, which I don't know if that is a common point of interest. I mean, I haven't really watched anyone else's videos or feedback on Pride and Prejudice. I literally went into this completely blind, but that is what I want after reading the book. I want that letter scene and I want it exactly how I'm picturing it in my mind. So I will be disappointed if I do not get it. Definitely let me know in the comments what scene is your favorite from Pride and Prejudice, because I'd love to, you know, watch it again. Again, I think this is something I could get something new from every single time I consume the media. So please let me know, what's your favorite point in the Pride and Prejudice movie and or the Pride and Prejudice book? Because I would love to go back and read those moments and see if I gain something different based on your perspective. President Snow, what are you doing here? Miss Keira is already annoying me, but I'm doing my best.
Remember I told you Darcy is yearning?
Okay, Missy. Little flex.
Say it again?
Yeah, play it again.
This instructor. Not at all. Pleasure is all mine. Darcy?
What's this one?
Immediately last night after finishing that movie, I went straight to bed. I was exhausted and I could not keep my eyes open any longer. And not for any fault of the movie, but I take a sleeping pill and my body was shutting down. So I went to bed, thought about it all day at work, and I'm ready to chat. This casting director, somebody get her coin, because I was so impressed with the cast. I felt like almost all of them fit what I was picturing in my mind, that or were better than what I could have pictured. So I really did enjoy the cast, except for Miss Keira. I'm not gonna spend too much time talking about it, but why do you smile like that? Why did you smile like that?
the scenes, okay? The main scenes that everyone, which I think everyone would be looking at, is the rain scene, that ending scene, and the letter scene. At least that's what I was really looking for. The rain scene I thought was absolutely incredible. The sun behind them in the final scene I thought was really pretty. The filmography was really good. The letter scene did disappoint me slightly, but not bad. Like, I still think it was a good scene. For me, what I really loved about the letter scene was her internal monologue and that sort of like internal struggle of thinking about it and going back and checking those pieces of the letter and coming back. I enjoyed that part of the book. So it did feel a little bit rushed, her reading it and then thinking about it. Like, it was just like, boom, new scene. So that kind of missed the mark for me. However, the scene itself was good, and I'm glad that they didn't cut too much of the letter. It didn't exceed my expectations, but it did meet them, just barely. It did meet them. So overall, the scenes themselves I thought were really well done. This is definitely one of the better, if not best, book to movie adaptations I have seen in a very long time. So I was impressed. Overall, I thought the movie was good, and I definitely will watch it again, even as someone who doesn't like the main actress. I would watch this movie again. If you have not watched it, I highly encourage you to. There was definitely some little things in there that, were just added in that I think increased the value of the movie. The little twitch, the little flex of the hand, done. Pack my bags, I'm moving in. I love that scene, and I had no idea it was coming. So I'm glad I watched it with my husband, because he was like, start recording. And I was like, okay. And I was so happy because I got to see it for the first time, and I was so excited. I gave 4 stars to the book. I think I'm also going to give 4 stars to the movie. I'm so surprised that it took me so long to watch this, because as a huge Bridgerton fan and like those period dramas that I enjoy so much, this is the foundation. This is the original. So I'm glad that I finally was able to love and appreciate it. It's been a very long week. I'm going to wrap this up. So please let me know in the comments what you are reading now and what I should read next. I'll see you next time on Books with Beck. Love you, bye.
Book Husband here. Like and subscribe. Love you. Bye.